Welcome back to another episode of the VonnSez Show, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very honored special guest, my mentor, Cramer says. You know, the Bible says give respect and honor where it's due. Ladies and gentlemen, the great
Thank you so
Tim
much.
Cramer. Cramer, we have
Thank
a
you.
wide variety of issues that we're going to be talking about, from the election, the economy, border insecurity, social issues, the role of Black voices in politics, the state of media and media as a whole, and the future of American politics. So, Cramer, my question is to you: how do you think the 2024 election is going to happen? I already know what you feel, and I already know what you think about the 2024 election, but people need to hear it.
I'm doubtful if we'll have a 2024 election. All the indications is that Democrats can't allow themselves to be investigated for what's happened over the last 7 years, from the spying on the Trump campaign to the Steele dossier to the Russia investigation to the raid on his home in Mar-a-Lago. All of these things are going to be investigated, as well as exposing, by Trump's admission, what he wants to do is disclose what happened with JFK and RFK back in the 60s. How did those assassinations happen? What's the information? And disclose all of that to the American people. It's been 60 years, and it's time that the American people know what really happened. The problem that they have with that, and this is why it's so important to understand how important this election is to the Democrats and the crooks, because if they start getting investigated, there's a lot of people to go down. I mean, think about what we just talked about. You've got a group of people that have come together and made this decision.
Yeah.
And Cedric, they don't want to be found out. They don't want to be investigated. I know I wouldn't if I had committed the crimes that we know that they're guilty of. We have the evidence. I mean, there's a great piece tonight from, what is it, MAGA? MAGA, Ultra MAGA Party. They put out great videos. Ultra MAGA Party put a great video out tonight.
They do.
That goes through and showcases who Joe Biden is and who the Democrats were ready just a month ago to put in the White House. They said a month ago that he was good enough to go into the White House and do it again. And when it turned out to the American public, when they realized that Joe Biden wasn't all there, well, what did they do? Oh, we got to change horses in midstream. And suddenly did something that's never happened in this nation before. With inside the Democrat Party, there was a coup. They threw out the head of their party,
right,
who had all the votes, and said, we're not going with you. We're going to go with her. The least, think about this, they're trying to go up against Donald Trump. She's the least liked VP in American history. And that's who they're going to run. The person who couldn't crack 1% in the 2020 primary against fellow Democrats. That's who they're running as the Hail Mary for the Democrat Party against Donald Trump. I don't see how that can be successful. She hasn't done an interview yet. She hasn't talked to the press. She hasn't issued policies. And the ones that she has talked about are lunatic. I mean, she makes her sound like a lunatic. We're going to put price controls on things in this nation. Come on, Kamala. Or I should say Kamila. I mean, that's really what it really comes down to. And so this election is so important. And there's a number of people that are culpable for a number of crimes, both against the American people and against humanity itself, in my opinion. So them getting investigated, Cedric, I don't think they're going to allow that to happen. So I don't see how they can allow the 2020 election to happen and be free and fair, transparent, where we all go, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, okay. Or they've got to do something to stall it. And I don't know what that is. We've already had an assassination attempt against Trump. Another guy was arrested this last week, I think in Arizona, for threatening to kill Trump and was on his way or in the vicinity to do that. Folks, this is not your typical American election. You've got to look at history. That's my guide. I look at two things when I judge or strategize on what's likely to happen next. And the first one is, Cedric, and this is a big one, human nature. What can humans justify doing to other humans? What have they justified doing to each other in the past? Right?
Mhm.
And the second thing is what are they capable of? What's their history of violence? What's their history of when they get backed into a corner, they'll lash out? And what we're seeing is that we're getting to a breaking point in this nation, that you've got two opposing sides that are both calling each other Nazis or commies. And it's very reminiscent of 1938 Western Europe, right? And the language being used today, and this is what's dangerous about going into this 2024 election, is the use of AI in messaging to fool people into believing one thing or the other. The use of misleading headlines, which mislead people across the spectrum on both sides. And this all of this has to stop for us to have free and fair elections. First of all, we have to be able to talk about them. That's number one.
Mhm.
And number two, we must be able, right, to say, we don't trust you.
Mm.
You see, that's the right of the individual. They want to have a groupthink. No, it's not groupthink. I don't think what happened in 2020 was free and fair. I don't think that it was an honest election. I believe that it was rigged. That's my opinion. I should be able to say that in this country. You know what's weird is that what they don't want is the public getting a consensus of that.
Mhm.
They don't want us talking about that and say, you know what? Well, I think the same thing. We got to get with our guys and go look at that.
Yeah.
They don't want that. So they want to shame everybody. They want to shut everybody down. You're an election denier if you believe, that Trump didn't, that Trump lost, right? You're an election denier if you believe that Joe Biden won. Joe Biden lost. I'm sorry, that's it. You're an election denier if Joe Biden lost. And Cedric, that's the mentality of what we're going through right now. This dichotomy of a group of people who are siding with Hamas and Hezbollah.
Yeah.
That's who they sided with. They didn't side with the guys that got attacked. They sided with the attackers.
Mhm.
And why? Why did they side? Because in their mind, Israel is an evil entity. Now, I'm not going to get into that argument, but that's what they believe. And that's why they've sided with the terrorists,
Yeah.
the ones that actually blow up buildings and throw, gay men from buildings. I mean, Cedric, we're in a situation in this country where we are so divided that this 2024 election and the criminals who have done what we know that they've done, they will not allow themselves, in my opinion, to be investigated, to be found out. And so I think that we'll see further assassination attempts against Trump. I think that we'll see more and more rhetoric over the next 72 days. And I think that it's doubtful that we'll get to the election on November 5th.
Ooh. Well, you know me, I'm an optimist. I started out on TikTok. Uh, I stated that the 2020 election was fraudulent. You and I have both lost tons of counts. You're at 116, I believe. But what's crazy
Yep.
to me is that I feel like they backed themselves into a corner. And what happened the last time they backed themselves into a corner? There was an all-out civil war in this country. The same
Right.
party that cares about unity and cohesion and inclusivity, all that good crap, is the same party that started a civil war on owning people. So for
Right.
them to say that, oh yeah, we are all for free and fair elections, but didn't y'all deny the 2016 election?
Here's what's interesting, Cedric. Here's what's interesting about what you just said. Think about what they're doing right. Some of the videos that I've had that were most successful, that took off on TikTok and other platforms, was about race and talking about how we're not a divided people. It's
Mhm.
the people making money off of dividing us. They're the problem.
I want to
And I
say this.
pointed them out. And they called me a racist for pointing out the people that are racist.
Your video that maybe had 1 billion views, more than 1 billion views, where you literally went step by step when you had said they have taken every person of color off of the boxes, and they have kept every white person, from Quaker Oats to the porridge to Nutri-Grain bars, granola bars, whatever you want to call it. They've kept the white faces, but they removed the black faces. And you said something along the lines: you can't bitch and complain when black people start to say there's no black representation in these supermarkets, when you guys basically rallied for 2021. George Floyd was dead, got killed, removed from the stores.
Look at what happened, Cedric. Look at what's happened over the last. Look at what's happened over the last few years when we talk about race in this nation. It got to the point where I was told that I couldn't talk about race because white is not a race. And I was like, are you a moron?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Caucasian is a race. That's who we are. You're telling me that I can't be prideful of who I am? I don't think I'm the best. I don't think white people are the best. I don't think anybody's the best, right? And they can't, with liberal minds, progressive minds, they have a zero-sum thought process, right? It's like, do you like asparagus? No, I don't like asparagus. Well, why do you hate vegetables? I hate vegetables, right? And that's their logic, is that it's all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they talk about the extremes when we get to abortion and the border and every other, the economy and inflation and everything else that happens in this nation, the LGBTQIA, the agenda on our kids, all of those things. When you start to talk about those things, the powerful people get very, 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 very antsy because they've got an agenda that is being driven by dollars funding them to get into office. That's what we found, is that we don't have representatives working for us. They're working for other causes. Mm-hmm. One of them is APAC, right? So I'm just saying that they give a lot of money to Republicans.
Yeah.
So how much voice do they have in our politics that overshadow our voice? And I'm for the people, man. I don't like this centralization of everything. I think that the more people involved, the better. And this 2024 election, man, it's got me scared because we can see what they've done in the past. That's what's important here, is understanding history, understanding what people can justify doing to other people. And when you understand that and you say, okay, based on that, and we think they did this is what's most likely to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be anything from, a very messy 2024 election to an outright revolution or civil war. The people have to agree that when the election is over, that this guy won, this guy lost.
Yeah.
That's it. And if we don't all believe that, well, at some point, we meet on a battlefield because we're not going to accept the policies of the people that we believe are there for tyrannical reasons or have done it unjustly. Just let us look at the records. If it's all free and fair and you really won, just let us look. And we're still talking about the 2020 election and being denied information from that election 4 years ago, going into a new election where the same people are in charge and we're supposed to expect a different outcome. I'm doubtful that we're going to get there.
Now, my next question is the economical challenges, the Biden inflation, and how the border also ties into inflation. I've been a very huge advocate on pointing the finger out that inflation in 2021, January 6th, was at 1.4%. Now inflation's at 17%. You had a secure border. There was international peace amongst the entirety of the world. And now we're at this boiling point that we're on the brink of a civil war in our own country and the brink of another world war. We can't fight two wars at once. That's how our nation falls. So my question is, how do you feel about inflation? Because you've lived much longer than I have. You have more information about inflation, the job market, and Federal Reserve policy. So how do you feel about all of
that? We're in a mess. It's a mess. I mean, think about it this way. I'm a college dropout. I was a full ride scholarship, got accepted to a private university, and I got in there and I said, I don't want to learn about it. I want to do it. And so I left college. I went back and started to get a business degree. And then I just said, you know what, I'm making so much money doing this broadcasting thing that I was really wanting to do that I decided to move on. The challenge that we have is that the nation is broke, right? The Fed is broke. They're over leveraged and they don't have the gold to back it up. That's why they won't allow an audit at Fort Knox. So until we get the Fed out of controlling the economy artificially with their boom and busts, because that's what's happened since this policy started and was accelerated when Nixon went off the gold standard. It was in 71 or 72. And so, Cedric, right now, this is an interesting point, is that if you look at what it cost in 1940, let's see, 1947 was the actual year that we started this calculation. So from 1947 to now, the American dollar has lost 90% of its value. So what used to cost a dime now costs 90 cents.
Wow. That's...
And you can calculate that all the way through. So when you look at homes and you look at, pay and you look at everything else, there's this, the dollar has lost 90% of its value since 1947. Now, there's only one way that happens. How does it lose so much of its value? Because we don't have the gold. And we've continued to print dollars on gold we don't have.
So my question is, so the imaginary...
That, by the way, that's called inflation. Let me close this out by saying that what they're doing is counterfeit. If you and I did the exact same thing, if we did a quantitative easing for everybody in our neighborhood and printed $1.5 million in fake money and spread it out amongst everybody, that'd be called counterfeiting, and you'd go to jail for that. But when the Fed does it, it's called quantitative easing. It does the exact same thing to the value of your dollar. It devalues it more and more and drives inflation. And that's why we're in a problem. We've got to get this stopped. This cycle is bust or boom. We can't do it any longer.
So my question is the $36 trillion of debt that we owe. Is that even a real number? Is it an actual number that we owe, or is it just...
They don't know. They have no idea. I don't trust anything coming from the government. I have no faith in any department. We just learned that the Biden administration had lied to us. I'm sorry, not lied. I'm going to use air quotes. Misspoke, miscalculated. They said that they had created 1 million more jobs in the last year than they had. When you go through all the corrections for the year, it's 1 million less. They lied to you. They always did it when they needed something. The jobs numbers are so good. Look at these jobs numbers. And then they go back and they quietly correct them. They've had to do it for the 14 of the last 16 periods. So think about that. I mean, Cedric, we are up against a group of people who I believe are capable of doing anything. They had an agenda. They had a plan. They had been meeting in Davos and other places around the planet to devise this plan and bring the American people into a global world economy. That's why we kept saying, oh, we're going to be global in all things global. When I was doing running my advertising agency, the companies that we worked with were expanding globally. That was the big thing all through the 90s and all through the 2000s. And we were expanding globally. The Clintons wanted this free trade deal to where, we got open shores and open borders everywhere. They wanted what we now know resembles a one world government where one person is chosen, one person's put in, and they rule the entire planet. That sounds like an emperor to me. That we're gonna elect him. Really? I don't trust the U.S. elections. You think I trust anybody else's elections on any other part of the planet? I don't want to get into that mess. And so that's when you listen to what they say, and when you listen to their writings, and you listen who they give money to and who they give favor to, and these people are saying, Klaus Schwab, for example, said. He was talking with one of the founders of Google, Sergey, I think is his name. And he asked him, he said, this AI thing that's happening, does it have the potential at some point to do predictive analysis to be able to pick a leader for an entire nation? And yeah, we could do that. That's completely possible. Think about that. They're putting that in the mindset of people, that it's better to allow AI to analyze what the economy is doing and everything else, and we won't fudge the numbers or anything. That's what they're trying to promote, and so that's dangerous. And people have to listen to what the people are saying they want to do. When powerful people tell me they want to limit my rights and freedoms, it perks up my ears, and it should yours too. I mean, it's just crazy.
Next question will be the border and immigration. I want to say this, that they say we've had about 10 million people come here. That's a lot.
Bullshit.
It's about
Bullshit.
33 million people who came here illegally. Maybe even more than that. We had
the last estimate I heard was 30 to 60 million, right? 30 to 60 million total. Think about that. That is a multitude of our U.S. cities in size. When we're talking about, an infiltration of, let's just say, conservative, 20 million people. That's 20 million new people into a system. They don't speak the language in many cases. They have to have special education, not special ed education, but special education for languages. And then they have to go through the process. Many of them don't have social services. So we're doling out money to a group of people, which bless their hearts are here. I understand it. I get it. If I could get the life that I'd always wanted, the American dream, and the back door to America were open, I'd go through it too. Right? And then I would be in the same exact position these people are. I would be an illegal alien. I would know
you want to become an illegal
I have
alien?
no right. I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, you want to become an illegal alien?
Well, it looks like we may have to, right? I mean, imagine there may be a swell of people going back south saying, thank God Trump didn't get that border wall in. We got to get the fuck out of America. These people are fucking crazy. We'll go risk the cartels in Mexico. So, Cedric, it's a mess. And I went down to the border. There was a caravan or a convoy that was going down there, and I went down there to cover it for the Gateway Pundit. And it was interesting that when you see how porous it is, and they can take you to places, and they go, that right there is a path. That path is the lowest river point of the Rio right here, and you can see the path. You can see people on it, and they're going from Mexico down the bank, across the river, up the bank, right into the city. And when you're watching it happen in real time, and you're being told by Kamala that, well, it's not a problem, the border is secure. If you'll lie to me to my face about that, won't you lie to me about it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's judgment that goes into who you are as a person. If you'll lie to me about something that is so trivial, so stupid, that I can verify for myself that you're lying, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got a group of people, Cedric, that aren't afraid of lying to the American people, then you can't trust anything these people say. And I think we're living in an extremely dangerous time.
Does it differ now than when you were, say, in your early 20s?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, there was a song, somebody posted on Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter. They posted on Twitter a video of Kim Wilde, a video of hers. The song was titled, you keep me hanging on. You keep me hanging on. You keep me hanging on. And it was a hit in the 80s. Great video. It's just a flashback to the 80s. And one of the comments that I thought was most interesting is, look at what we've lost. All this great music and the freedom of speech. Think about that. that people today know that they have been censored. They know that their government has told these entities, these properties that we're trying to broadcast out on, telling people what's going on, they have a hit list of people, and the government says those people cannot speak. One of the first tragedies of this clampdown was, remember, what was this, Mayanopoulos? What was his name? The gay conservative.
White,
You know what I'm talking about?
or
White guy with blonde hair, very flamboyant. Anyway,
I don't know, but I know
he
I know exactly. I know exactly who you're talking
when
about.
he no longer when he no longer, right, when he'd become dangerous. What I mean by dangerous is people were listening to him, right? When that happens, that voice has to be squashed, and that's what they've done. And it's all, the first thing is that we heard the reports that, oh, he was into kitty porn, or he was into domination, and then all of a sudden these sexual assault charges. It's always, that's the first thing they do, sexual assault charges, right? Here's the way I look at it. I protect myself. I generally go everywhere I go with my wife, for the most part. The only thing that I don't do with her is fishing. Sometimes she doesn't go fishing with me. A lot of times she'll go fishing with me, but sometimes she won't go. So that's really the only thing that I do by myself, right? That time period would give me the time to go find something on the side. And I don't want to do it because of the risk, not because of what my wife would do. Our marriage would be destroyed. But it's what this other crazy person is capable of doing. And then what's justified? That suddenly I'm a bad guy for something that I played half of the role in. So I play it safe. I carry a gun when I fish. If I see any hot-looking woman that's coming up to me with, like a martini glass in one hand and a bourbon jug in the other, and she walks up, I'm sorry, I'm assuming that she's a zombie of some sort and has to take a headshot.
Gonna get me canceled. Oh my God. There goes my political career. Fuck you. Okay. My next question is, how do you feel about the role of Black conservative voices basically speaking out about the mass hypnosis of the Democratic Party with the Black church and Black celebrities and all of this stuff that's going on? How do you feel about the hypnosis that's going on in Black media? Do you feel like Black conservatives with the right mind of thinking are pushing as hard as they should be in spreading the message out?
Yes, all of that. I think everyone should be speaking loud. Here's what's interesting in politics. It's one of the staples that when it was first said to me, I went, holy shit, that's 100% correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And what that statement is there's nothing worse than being the second poorest group.
Mm-hmm.
Right? First poor group gets all the charity and everything. There's a threshold, and that threshold, let's say it's $10, right? Well, there's somebody who they're making $10, but they made $10.02.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not rich, right? They're still at that threshold, and they don't take that into account when we're looking at these kind of questions. I think that it's important for people to understand that. I think it's going to get a lot worse in this nation before it gets any better. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I guess that Cedric, I don't think that the people in this nation are in enough pain to make the change that they say that they want. I don't think that they're there yet. The 2024 election may do it for them. So we'll see. I hope it's a free and fair election. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I have misjudged human nature. I hope that that's the case, but I fear it's not.
All right. Next question is, the sort of conservative media You've been doing media for about 40 years.
You know
40
what?
plus years.
I do. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Let me get back to that question. Let me get back. Now I know what you asked. I remember as soon as you started talking, I remembered exactly what you asked. Yes, Black conservative voices have to raise their voices even higher. You can't allow another group of people to be brought up underneath you and tell you. And this is not a pointing at the Black community as a poor community, but it's our poorest community, right? There are poor whites just as poor as Blacks, but there's a lot more poor Blacks compared to the ratio of whites.
Yeah.
Okay, substantially higher. I'm a strong proponent of giving everyone the same voice, the same ability. And what Democrats want to do is they want to give more and more and more services. And conservatives, what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to get fewer and fewer people off the rolls and into positions to where they're able to empower themselves, right? So we judge a great program as one that has barely any people on it. And Democrats, they look at a program and they judge it on how many people are on it, how successful it is. We've got 10 million people on the poorest, the poorest people in our nation. We've got 10 million people, and I think that what we have to look at is that the Black conservative voice, I think, has spoken from the Black viewpoint to the detriment of their counterparts on the liberal side. I think that they're starting to turn heads. I mean, look at what's happening in this election. When you look at the polling numbers of the Black community that is Chicago, not known as a conservative bastion.
No, it's not.
And they're saying they're going to vote for Trump. So that has to have Democrats concerned. And that's why the border issue, should be important to the Black community. Because if this replacement theory that everybody talks about has any chance of actually being real, then we should honestly look at what's happening and what they're doing and what they're justifying. I mean, the people coming across our border and taking jobs, they don't come in at the top. They're not astrophysicists, right? They're not your doctor. They're not your dentist. They're coming in and taking the jobs at the lowest end, the poorest community. That's where their jobs are going to come from. And that's how it's always been. And unless we have a strong border, then I think in my opinion, we have a weaker Black community. And that's why the Black conservative voices like yourself must speak up on these issues and say, listen, this affects us too. Don't forget who we are. Right. And so the more the better.
Okay. Good. How do you feel about the state of conservative media? There has been a complete shift in our media with the departure of Candace Owens from the Daily Wire, from the Hezbollah Hamas attack on October 7th. Some conservatives believe we shouldn't be in it. Some conservatives we should be. So do you think the infighting that we're having now is a detriment to our collective causes, which is minimal government, free speech, and the American people being left out of nonsense and pointless wars and all of these other monotonous bullcrap?
I think it's childish. I mean, here's the thing. The reason they're fighting is not because of their political views so much, but how their personal political views can potentially affect a brand. And they can't have that. And I think that's a shame that what Ben Shapiro has done over there, I think is ridiculous. I'm ashamed of what journalism in this country is called today. And I know he's a partisan. I understand. But you've got to have freedom. We don't have to all agree on everything to agree that what's been happening for the last 7 years has been a terroristic attack, a coup against this nation. And I think that infighting over money, because that's what it comes down to. A lot of times it's money. It's not just political stuff. It's money. And I think that this monetization of how conservative you are is bullshit. So that's the thing that concerns me about the conservative media today is I think they're off target. I had the benefit of being a DJ for a number of years, and so I was known in my community. I had my name. Everybody knew my name. I go to the bars. Everybody knew who I was. And I thought I was a pretty hot shit. And it took a couple of incidents to convince me otherwise. And when I realized what my real place was, and I wasn't a big shit, I had a fun job that a lot of people looked up to. I thought I was a funny guy.
I think
Right, because I was part of a morning show. I used to write comedy. You know, that process taught me the humility that when I went onto social media and everybody's, oh, Cramer, he's great. It's like, okay, thanks. I appreciate it, but it doesn't go to my head. First of all, Cedric, I already knew I was great. I did. I did not need their confirmation. Okay. But the problem is that a lot of people in our politics, they don't have that.
Mhm.
And so they're incapable of listening to all ideas because they've got this shell around them that there's certain things that you can and cannot talk about. I was talking about on Twitter, talking about the word retard. And people, oh my God, somebody had gotten a post about using that word. Well, the word retard has a meaning. It means to not function properly. You either detard or you advance motor timing. You either retard or you advance.
Mhm.
So when we say that these words can't be used because this word is now offensive, or this phrase is now offensive, or that what you've been doing and believing in is offensive, Cedric, we're in trouble.
Mhm.
I think that the 2024 election is the most pivotal election in our country. And I'm not going to tell you to vote for Donald Trump for any other reason than if they're lying to us like this now, going into an election, you'll never hear the truth after. I don't see it. We know that they're lying. We know that the jobs numbers, we know that the economy, we know that the inflation, that they're fudging the numbers and they're playing with them. We know that for sure. We can point it out. But there's a large group of people in this nation, Cedric, about half the nation who votes, who believes the exact opposite. And they will suffer through it. They will cut off their nose to spite their face. And they're dangerous.
Next question and final question of the hour is the future of American politics. Next generation leaders, policy priorities, and the long-term vision, 10 to 20 years on the Republican side and the Democrat side. I'm a big advocate on fixing the system, but you can't fix it at the federal government level. The federal government is too big of a beast to deal with. I've advocated for the last 4.5 years since I've been doing social media. If you want to fix it, if you want to make change, you gotta start at the bottom. It starts at the bottom. You don't like your mayor? Impeach him. You don't like your congressman? Impeach him. You don't like your governor? Impeach him. When they're impeached, they're unelectable to run for public office again. You don't like a judge? Impeach him. So I have stated that no matter if you're Democrat or Republican, our goal is to live cohesively together. We could disagree about certain things, but our goal should be living together in unison. That's what our founding fathers wanted. So how do you think we can have both parties, both individual parties with their prospective people in it, live cohesively together that the American people benefit and not have to suffer? Because we've been suffering for the last, I would say, 24 years now. From Bush, Obama, we bribed them there. Trump, just wanted to throw that out. And Biden.
Cedric, I had a very successful advertising business going into the 2020 pandemic. I was making about $700,000 a year, living high on the hog, having a great life, getting ready to live my best life. The economy was just humming along. And it's my opinion that the pandemic was used as a weapon against the American people and the rest of the world to make sure that Donald Trump was not reelected. It gave them the authority and the ability to do all of this mail-in voting and emergency bullshit that, it was unconstitutional. If they did that back then, and those same people are in charge. The future of America in the hands of cheaters or potential cheaters, right? But they won't let us find out. They say that's a threat to national security. That's a threat to democracy. Well, their form of democracy is they just conducted a coup against the leader of their own party, removed him after 17 million votes. That's their form of democracy. Whatever they need to do what they got to do. And we've got to be aware of that going into this election. So the future of American politics, Cedric, I think it's tumultuous. I think that we've got a bee's nest in our hands, and you better not make a misstep, or you're going to drop it, or those bees are going to notice they've been rustled, and there's going to be a problem in this nation. And I think it's going to happen across racial lines. I think it's going to happen across economic lines. We're already seeing the crime in these blue cities going through the roof. We can see it on the night. I mean, and not just here, but in the UK, if you didn't see it on Twitter, a man was walking down the street with his family when a group of kids came up. Illegal immigrant kids came up and started harassing him and his family. He tried to protect himself, and they stabbed him in the neck.
Oh my Lord.
And then filmed it all and posted it, making fun of him. That's where we are in the world right now, and our current economic system, our current political system is not addressing it. They're not saying anything about it, Cedric. So let me ask you, what do you think the future of American politics is?
It's a very shitty mess, I can tell you. But like I said, I'm an optimist. I have hope. And like I stated earlier, we have to get these people out of office. It doesn't matter who's in Washington. The asshats in Washington could stay there and die all as I care. But if you want to fix the system, you have to do it locally. You have to do it locally. And I'm a big advocate. If you don't want to be here, I'm a firm believer in stripping your citizenship and getting deported to the country you want to be in. You want to go be a Hamas terrorist, a Hezbollah terrorist, Al Qaeda terrorist? Go ahead. We'll fly you there. Use that tax money. Send them there.
Yep.
I want people who want to better the nation, no matter where you're from. But the system itself in each state is corrupt. New Orleans is corrupt. Baton Rouge is corrupt. Indiana is corrupt. We have to fix this system.
Well,
yeah, you got basically.
That's right.
You basically got blackballed from your own party in Indiana.
Yep. Republicans are not friends of Tim Cramer in the state of Indiana. There's a lot of them got a bad taste in their mouth because I spoke up during COVID and said, you guys are supposed to stand up and be our voice, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The governor does not have this authority.
Yeah.
I went onto a radio station in Indianapolis and said that. And Cedric, you're right. When you say certain things, sometimes there's an expense, there's a cost. That one cost me about $400,000 a year. So,
well, we live
and learn.
You live and learn. And
That's right.
Before we go, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Hope to see you again soon. If y'all don't know, follow Cramer on CramerSez on Instagram. I don't know what your TikTok handle is. You're going to tell that your damn self.
Just type in CramerSez and you'll find me. It's CramerSez 116, I think, something like that. And don't forget to go sign up at CramerSez.com.
Yes.
It's a free social media platform. It's a mix, but it's probably about 10%. So 90% conservative, 10% liberal. There's some yamming and yawn on there, but for the most part, people post the funniest memes. A lot of the videos that I get are delivered to me. Hey, Cramer, take a look at this.
Yeah.
And I get it from CramerSez. So if you're seeing me post a great video, it's because somebody posted it on CramerSez.com, and I've taken it from there. So, folks, Cedric, first of all, let me say it's been interesting watching you grow over the last 3 years.
Thank you.
We got to know each other. It was during some, extremely disastrous I'm trying to think, occasions or occurrences that were going on with the pandemic and all that shit. And the way that your life had to change right? How it was modified by what was going on and how you dealt with that to now has been impressive. And so it's been an honor and a pleasure to get to know you over the last 3 years. I just wanted to tell you that before we got done tonight.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in this episode. We'll hope to see you in the next. Hopefully, we have another special guest coming on. Tune in. Maybe Ryan Garcia's personal trainer beyond. Who knows? But stay tuned for the next episode of the VonnSez Show. Thank you. I'm out. Cramer, thank you so much.